So before we get into baking, guys, these are three of my daughters. We're introducing to you a fun game to play this Easter weekend. Just go over to my family channel. It's called Empress Marzi and check it out. It's called How Jamaican Are You? Whether you're living in Jamaica or abroad, you'll be surprised the amount of stuff that you forget. So don't forget to just run over and check it out after the
I have a
video.
bonus question.
Yeah, 20 pints coming out on pints. No, 20 pints.
This point worth 5 points. The first person to answer.
No, because Crystal kind of huggish. And he's kind of fast.
What does Jamaicans call pineapple?
Pineapple. Pine. They call it pine.
Yeah.
No. Start over. Because
the question was confusing.
Eh. I'm Jamaican.
Alright, so to close off the video, I'm going to ask you guys one more time. How Jamaican are you? Starting with DK. DK, how Jamaican are you?
Bring out Chim Air Man in time, Jamaican.
Tashika, how Jamaican are you?
Use orange leaf, make tea, Jamaican.
Crystal, how Jamaican are you?
Throw a tea from 1 cup to the next for cool the Jamaican.
So in this bowl I have 4.5 cups of bread flour. This is the brand that I'm using. I've made this before with all-purpose flour, so if you don't have any bread flour, you don't have to worry about going out to get it. Alright, so I am going to use 1 teaspoon of salt to add some taste, and I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of sugar. And the reason I'm adding the sugar is because the yeast loves sugar. All right, so the sugar will help the yeast to activate, and this is the yeast that I'm using. Make sure that you're using the active dry yeast, and make sure you check the expiration date as well. All right, so if you're using the yeast from the jar, you can use an equivalent of 2.25 teaspoon of yeast. If you're using from the jar, it is the same as 1 packet of yeast. All right, so I am going to be adding my sugar along with my yeast, and I'm going to use my whisk to incorporate all of this so that they can combine properly. All right. So now I'm just going to add my butter, and I'm using 1/4 cup of melted butter, or you can just use 1/2 stick of butter if you're using the stick one. Now I'm just going to add 1 egg, and I'm going to use my hands and just combine everything. I'm combining the butter and the egg together with the flour and until it's like crummy. It should have like a crumb-like consistency. All right, and after that, then I'm going to add my liquid ingredients. If you don't want to use your hands, you can go ahead and use your mixer. Sometimes I use my mixer but for those persons who don't have a mixer, I like to use my hands sometimes to show them that they can make their Howwerowe bread or their rolls or their peg bread, whatever bread you're making. You can also do it with your hands. It's just that you have to knead with your hands, and you know, it may take a little more time than the mixer, but you can go ahead and use your mixer if you wish. So in this cup I have 1/4 cup of water, and I'm going to add that until my dough is fully combined. And you want it to be nice and soft, not too sticky where you can't manage it. All right, so as you can see right here, everything is coming together nicely. This is how I want it. It should be tacky but not sticky where you can't hold the dough. All right, so I'm gonna put this down to rest for 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna come back and do the kneading process. And the reason for that is when you're handling dough, it tends to work better if you put it down to rest for a little bit. So I put it down to rest for 5 minutes. It's now 5 minutes, and I'm adding just a teaspoon of oil so that it can be easy to handle. I don't want to add any flour. If you add flour, it's going to change the texture of your dough, and you don't want that. You want your rolls to come out nice and soft, right? So I'm just going to knead this for about 5 minutes. If you're using the mixer, you just go ahead and just the whole mixing process would be like 10 minutes, but I have another 5 minutes to knead this with my hands, and then I am going to cover it and allow it to rise for 1 hour. As you can see here, it's nice and soft, and this is what I'm looking for. I'm just going to grease the top, and then I am going to cover it for 1 hour. So if you're watching me baking bread for the first time, I've said it over and over, you have to make sure that whatever you're using to knead your dough is warm. It can't be cold and it can't be hot. If it's cold, the yeast is not going to rise, and if it's hot, the heat is going to kill the yeast. So it should be warm. So make sure that your eggs are at room temperature, your butter is at room temperature. Make sure that your milk is warm and your water is warm. So it's been 1 hour, and what I'm going to do is grease the bottom of my baking tin, and I am going to add my parchment paper. So the parchment paper is just going to allow it not to burn at the bottom. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So after 1 hour, we're just going to remove our covering, and then we're going to punch some holes in the dough to release all the air. Alright, so you're going to prepare your clean surface that you're going to work with, and then place your dough on it. So now I'm just going to divide my dough. I am not perfect when it comes to size, guys. I do have a small scale, but I don't have time to do that. But if you want to be perfect, you can go ahead and measure each piece to make sure it's the same size. As you can see, my dough is nice and soft. It should be able to stretch like this. That's when you know that you have the perfect dough to make your bread. It should be soft, it shouldn't be all dried out, and it shouldn't be too sticky. So now it's time to roll out my dough, and if you have seen my Howwerowe bread, that's the same process that I'm going to use. I'm trying to get it into a small rectangular shape, and yeah, and tuck it so that it can rise up to give me that lift that I need to get that peg bread look, if you understand what I'm trying to say. But yeah, just watch the process, guys. So I'm basically just rolling it out into a circle, and then I'm going to pinch each side, roll, and then tuck, just like when I'm making the Howwerowe bread, except the Howwerowe bread is like a rectangular shape, but I'm going for a square, more of a square, because the peg bread is much smaller. Alright, so we're just going to pinch each side, roll, and then tuck it in. So after shaping my peg breads, what I'm going to do is place them beside each other, and I'm going to leave them about ½ inch apart because they need space to rise. Alright, and don't quote me on the shape of the peg bread, guys. This is what I put together on my own based on how the peg bread looks. I am trying to get that shape. I'm not saying that the peg bread that you buy in Jamaica, this is how they shape it. Alright, so let me just put that disclaimer out there. So guys, as you can see, it's all done, but as you can see, as I said before, I'm not perfect when it comes on to sizing. Some of them are bigger than some, but that's okay. It's all gonna be in the taste and the texture of this bread. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to cover it once more with plastic wrap, and then I'm going to put my towel over it so that it can stay nice and warm and dark. If your house is cold like mine is right now, you can turn your heater on and just cover that and put it down to rise for 30 minutes. Alright, when it's halfway through the 30 minutes, you want to turn your oven on, and I put mine on 320 degrees. Alright, and right here in this bowl I have 1 egg, and I also have some milk, and I'm going to make an egg wash to put on the top. But before that, I'm going to add some butter in between so that when it's baked I can rip them apart easily. So after 25 minutes, this is what they look like. I took them out because I don't want them to dry out. All right, so these were super soft. I'm just going to add some butter on the top to make them a little bit more buttery. You don't have to do that. Okay, you don't have to add any more butter. So yeah, I want them to be nice and buttery, so I'm adding some more butter, and I'm going to eat mine with some tasty cheese. Yes, so this is great on Easter Sunday morning with some fried fish as well. So if you want to hurry up and bake some for Sunday morning, that's fine. All right, so I'm gonna have peas with some cheese. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm gonna break this so that you can see how soft and moist the inside is. And yeah, it's not as high as the preg bread that you'd get in Black River or in Hammond's pastry in Sav, but look at that, guys. It's nice and soft and rich. This is what I was talking about with the texture of the dough. You don't want it to be dry when you're kneading it. If it's dry, just start over. Okay, and guys, please don't forget to check out my family channel. That's where all the fun is. We play some games over there that we play growing up in Jamaica, like ABC, Fast or Slow. Boy, girl, animal, play something, that game. We play How Jamaican Are You and stuff like that. Some really fun games. So don't forget to check it out, guys. And thank you so much for watching my video. And I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye. Happy Easter.